Okay, so today is fasting day one, and I just had this thought of starting the video like that, and then I automatically shifted to this other spot where I heard somebody say, "You're not supposed to talk about it when you fast," because that's one of those religious things. But it's like I journal about it, and this to me is the same thing as journaling, except for I'm talking through it, right? So it's like it really on that end, it's just putting it out there because it's something that's happening. It's a start point, and it is connected to everything else that I have felt inclined to want to talk about today. So it works. um, but also, if my stomach starts getting rumbly, there's also that little, you've been forewarned. However, that hasn't been an issue so far, so hopefully it's not. But since my stomach frequently decides to talk its way through videos, I figured I'd go ahead and throw it out there. So, yes, I had anticipated skating today because it's nice. It's kind of dreary, but it's 65 and feels amazing on that end. The initial downfall is it's windy as hell, and aside from that, now it's not raining a huge amount, but it's got the parking lots all wet now. So and I've skated like this before, and it hasn't been a problem, except for normally I start skating before it rains like it has, because it hasn't been a whole lot of rain, just enough to get the road wet. But when I was already going, it wasn't a problem. But since it's already wet, it's like, yeah, we're just not even worry about it, especially with the wind, because I'm not in the mood to get blown into a slick spot and bust my ass because I decided to try to skate on a windy, rainy day. But weather-wise, the temperature-wise, is amazing. And honestly, I love dreary days like this anyway. That's just, I feel they're cozy to me, right? So I just enjoy them. Yeah, it's windy. So this morning, I woke up and was laying in bed for a while, and I am very slow on getting going in my day, and I spend a couple hours thinking through things and then meditating and then all that stuff. It's like I have a process now, right? It's like not a well established process, but it's getting there, right? So when I was thinking, I was thinking about, I'm fasting. I could fast from my phone too. And it's like that wouldn't work because I have to use my phone for doing videos and putting them on YouTube, or at least I can't put them on YouTube from my phone. But then so what I do is I do the video, and then I watch it as it loads to my computer, and then I post it to YouTube from there. But I have to keep the thing up, which is why it's proven to be a good time to watch the video at that time, because it's an extended span of time where the phone stays awake to transfer the videos and images or whatever. So I can't completely disconnect from my phone. But then I started thinking about ways that I could still ease it back, right? So obviously, if I'm doing the videos, I need it for at least 2 to 3 hours, based on time to do the video and time to rewatch the video. So however long I went with my talking and all that. But then it's like I use it to track the walks when I take the dog on a walk, or dogs on a walk. I have a couple different walking apps that I use, and then when I'm skating, I use it then. Now, it's not really going to be a huge issue going forward this week, because today there's 65, tomorrow's the highest 26. So it's gonna be a hell of a drop and a very sad one, and I hate those. And we have like 3 dead fish floating on the top of our pond, and I think it was because the last time the weather did that, there was like a wintry mix that, you know, brought in the really ridiculously cold weather, and it had been warm and the fish were out swimming around, and then this wintry mix comes in and, you know, the temperature drops, so I think they got frozen at the top and couldn't go further down in the water. So there's 3 floaters, and if I get home before it's dark I might fix that, but yeah, anyway, so I use, that's quite a wandering from talking about my phone usage, talking about dead fish. Anyway, so 555. So I use it for the walking and skating. Oh, that was why I got there, because I'm not going to be skating the next few days when it's that hellishly cold, and like tomorrow I probably won't even walk the dogs because I don't want to go. Like, we'll still go outside and I'll throw the ball for Gidge, but we'll see. Usually if it's below freezing, we don't go walk, at least much. We have tried before, so it just, we'll play it by ear and see if we want to or not. If we don't want to, then hey, then I don't have to use my phone at that point in time. You know, and I've been, you know, I was thinking about like music. Like if I'm skating, generally I listen to music, but not always. So I was thinking maybe, I mean, because it is going to be back in the mid to upper 30s, I think, at the end, toward the end of the week, or middle to end somewhere. So I might skate. But excuse me. I don't necessarily have to listen to music. So that's kind of, you know, something and like, okay. What I have been doing recently is I'll have like a tarot reading play while I'm getting ready for the day. Today I had a song that I wanted to listen to instead. And I might go into that and the reasoning behind that and everything, because it's one of those that I just started listening to recently again, and I haven't listened to it like constantly or anything. It's just, there were a couple moments that I was really feeling icky. And okay, so the song is Breaking Benjamin, Dear Agony, right? And when I was trying to process through everything with the divorce, like back in 2019, 2020, I was working for this guy that had like a handyman business, and he would often have me paint over at the apartments that he lived at, because that he basically got free rent because he was the handyman, right? So if somebody had an issue at 3, 4 in the morning, he would still have to get up and go deal with it, but he was working, and that was, you know, how he was also paying his rent. So, you know, when it came to like painting and stuff, he had me go over, and, you know, I would go paint the apartments and whatever else needed to be done. If it was just a painting thing, it was usually just me in there by myself. If there was like a repair kind of thing, or if he was building something, then it was usually the both of us in there. And I think I've talked about him on here a few times too. But when I was doing the painting, you know, because it was, of course, in those apartments, it was just painting everything white. The cabinets were white, the ceiling was white, the floors, or the walls were white. I mean, the floors were like wood, I think. Maybe some laminate flooring. But otherwise, everything was white, right? So, like, that was an easy thing to do. And while I was doing that, I would listen to music. And I spent a lot of time with the playlist that I put together as my Tyler playlist. And that one, you know, is specifically heavier songs because Tyler's the friend that died. And right for processing after his death, I started just finding these songs that I was really drawn to or that made me think about him for whatever reason. And I would listen to those. So I have this whole playlist that has a bunch of songs that were either really heavy or that reminded me of him for some reason. And this Dear Agony was one of them, right? And of course, I've talked about how, this song's not on the playlist, but how one of the songs that came up in the time I was trying to process specifically divorce-related stuff was Smith and Myers' Not Mad Enough. And that song, I got stuck on it immensely. And I would just listen to it over and over and over again. And it really just occurred to me one day that the whole deal with my processing of the shit with my ex was I was mainly trying to sweep it under the rug. I wasn't letting myself feel the feelings and actually process everything out of my system. So when I get stuck on this song, it's basically telling me that I'm not allowing myself to be mad and to feel the anger of the situation of having been in such a toxic connection and feeling stuck, right? I wasn't letting myself have the space to truly feel it, be upset about it for what it was, because I got stuck in a toxic situation. And yes, the decisions that got me into that situation were, they were based on decisions that I had made, right? But there was reason for them, right? And that's what I've been processing through this vlog space for the past couple of years, right? I kept finding that I was going back to stuff with having to heal from shit that was basically concerning my father. And then, in the past 2 weeks, I finally really connected with the point that the way that my life has been, I went from being my father's trash to being my husband's trash because I wasn't taught to value myself at all, right? Because I felt the burden of my father's resentment my entire life. So I felt like a burden, and I accepted that I was a burden, right? I was a problem. My existence was a problem. So, now that I realize that that's the underlying reason that I got into that toxic connection, it's there's a whole lot of feelings that, have had to be processed through with that in and of itself. But also now understanding and being able to have compassion for the old version of me that got into that situation, that made the decisions I did that put me in that situation because of this underlying belief that I was a burden, right? So yeah, okay. So I don't really know how I got there, but the music stuff. Anyway, so going back to my process, and it's okay, so it's how much do I really need to use my phone? It's obviously, YouTube, I gotta use it for that, or for my videos. I gotta use it for my tracking, my walking and skating times, if that's a thing, depending on weather. Excuse me, but I don't need to be on social media. I've been thinking about, I've talked about that on here recently about how it's just not interested, right? And taking a break from social media. So there's no need for the doom scrolling, and I don't need to kill all the time on YouTube videos like I have been. It's what will I do with that time, right? So, ouch. What I, started thinking about was, okay, so what can I do if I'm not, doom scrolling or whatever, or just getting distracted with videos or whatever. Oh, and the other thing is, if I have a night that I can't sleep for some reason, and, the healing vibrations things are pretty good to listen to. Although on that end, I have a white noise machine, and I always have that on rain, because that's about that, and I forget what the other one is. Rain is the go-to. Thunderstorm I avoid because Gidget's terrified of storms. There's one that has birds chirping, so that bothers me, so I can't listen to that. But like, I was thinking about like all these things too. It's like, okay, so like I'm already I have something going so I can sleep, and maybe if I can't sleep, it's because I need to spend more time writing, right? And so I've talked about that on here a bunch of times. Like, if I can't sleep, sometimes writing is the thing that I do, because I have to get the shit out of my head. If I wake up in the middle of the night and can't sleep, there again, I'll go back to writing and, spend a couple hours writing, and then finally get to a point where I can go back to sleep. So a big part of it is just, tuning into my need and my process and doing that, right? Execute. So, okay. So I was thinking about all that stuff, right? Oh, what do I do what am I going to do if I don't have all that time? It's like, what would I do if I'm not wasting all the time on my phone? And then I was looking at my room. It's like, I still have to organize shit. I still am purging shit. I'm still, trying to figure out what to pack away and put in the closet. Without this distraction, that can happen a lot easier. And another thing is, if I clear the space in my room, I can put my puzzle table up again and, because that was the thing that I started doing there for a while, where I realized it was something that's kind of meditative for me. So, and it's interesting because the first time I really remember this being a thing was after me and the guy I thought I was going to marry, the one that we broke up in 2011. After the breakup, I had some time. I fasted for like 15 days, and then I was trying to find other things to do, right? And I had, in that time frame, I was still in my church girl mindset. And, so I'd spend like so many hours every day on Bible study stuff, and then journaling about what I read and what I had thought about, or what connections I had made because of what I had read and all that stuff, right? And then I would go walk the dogs. But I got into like doing puzzles in the family room. And I think it was like one night I was doing them by the light of the fish tank. We had a 75-gallon fish tank at that point in time. And I had this the set of puzzles that I still have, that they're very brightly colored, and they have different animal scenes on them, like Lisa Frank type, but not Lisa Frank, like less cartoony. But like, I randomly remember doing puzzles by the light of the fish tank at some point in time. And I don't know why that was the case, but the other part of what I remember in that space was I was also really hung up on Christina Perri's 1,000 Years, which that song has been hella relevant here lately. So I made the connection recently that this song that I got into back then for this other thing was actually kind of that inner voice that was, that it took me there because there was more to it than I was even aware of, right? So I was just listening to it to get in the feelings and whatnot in the moment, and sidetracking myself with puzzling and, just listening to the song on repeat. But then, then the thing that happened was the summer where the song came back up. I had already listened to it a few times. It's on the Sappy Music playlist that I have, and like 2 different ones. And, it's just a song that I love in general, right? So one day at the Inner Path class, I'm sitting there in the middle of the room, because because it was crowded that day, so they had extra table or extra chairs that they had to find, and I ended up sitting next to this girl who just gotten back from like I don't know if she did like an ayahuasca ceremony or something, but she had something where there was like apparently she got hung up for a week longer than she was supposed to be. I don't know all those details. She was sitting next to me, and she was talking about, I don't even remember what. It was something with the divine feminine. But when she was talking, and I'm listening to what she's saying, then I'm also suddenly aware of the song that's playing out in the store. And I think the part that like all at once like switched me over to realizing it was there was it's like, I have died every day waiting for you. I don't know. There was something, I know the song, I can sing it, but I'm not going to sing it here. I have to listen to it to sing it anyway. But the other part that stood out was talking about, I have loved you for 1,000 years. I'll love you for 1,000 more. And just in that moment, like, it really hit me. It's like this whole connection, this twin flame counterpart connection, has literally been the thing that's, kept me moving at various points along my journey, right? And most of the time I was completely oblivious to it, right? So there was this idea when I was 4 that, I wanted this big, amazing love story kind of a thing. But then, and I've talked about realizing it was like a check-in before he incarnated to make sure I was still good to continue the path, right? This was the plan that we set forth, and, it was going to be very hard to get there, but once we got there, it would be this big, amazing thing. And right, and, of course, a little version of me, the little 4-year-old me, was like, yeah, love story, let's do that one, right? But then, like, my entire life, I've spent, like, every time I was in any situation, listening to my mom, for example, when my mom would say things like, I'm your mother, so I have to love you, but I don't like you very much. It's like that voice would just chime in with, that's not love. Or, when she'd go out of her way to call me in the room just to say, you're a very pretty girl, but you don't act like it. It's like, that's not love. And just like little things that would come up along the way. And I could always point it and be like, that's not love. What the fuck? And being so very aware that love did not exist in the space that I existed in, and trying to, it's like, I was a little kid, I wanted it, but my life was teaching me that I was unworthy of love, right? But essentially because I was surrounded by a bunch of people that were taught to look outside of themselves for love, and were taught very much that they were not worthy and that it had to be earned and all this stuff. So it's like, of course that was the existence that I was in, but that was part of the plan, right? Because I'm supposed to be making these connections so I can share the story and share what I'm realizing about my journey, so other people can find it and maybe relate to something that I'm sharing, right? And at very least, to get me so completely aware of the different layers of the decisions that I made and how I got stuck in situations that I felt stuck in, right? So, and honestly, one of the biggest things was, so the guy that I dated in high school, I've talked on here about how I knew he wasn't the one, but at a time I felt very unsafe. He was at least somebody safe to have in my life. And so we stayed together 2 years longer. I mean, okay, we broke up like 3 times. I broke up with him every time. The first 3 times, once was for like an hour, and then something happened, and it's like, I can't do this, and then like another time for like a day, and then there was like a whole month, and then his sister ended up in my section, and it's like, she's going to be a nightmare and make my life a living hell if she's in my section, and me and him are not together. So it's safer on that end, and it's safer across the board, because there were a lot of people that, at least, like one of the guys that he hung out with quite a bit in high school was one of the ones that was perpetuating this stupid story that, that wasn't true about me, all throughout. He was like, this dude was my cousin's best friend, and like, he was all in on making my life a living hell with this bullshit. And then when I started dating this guy, and we all ended up in Drumline together, that dude wasn't going to say jack shit to the guy that I was dating, because, he probably, but I mean, that's one of those things you can't really, if you're making fun of your friend's girlfriend, that's a problem, right? And that's generally going to get you cut from the friends, right? And, the funny thing is, the guy that I dated, I don't think he ever took that guy seriously, but that guy hung around him like a freaking flea, which is pretty on par for that guy's existence, I think. I've talked about that several times, that guy latched onto this thing because he felt so shitty about his own life, and he was trying to, basically, I served the purpose of, I could distract the attention to him. He could throw this thing out there that he knew about me, and then everybody would focus on me and not worry about him. So it's like, but like, all the Drumline people knew he was full of shit and a pain in the ass. And I don't think anybody was gung-ho about, yay, he's here, right? And it's like, I don't think anybody had that. But I think, okay, like going back to the senior picture, right? Or the awards thing, right? So, okay, so my senior year, we win the Winter Guard Internationals finals. So we got the championship, and before we went out on the floor, I knew we were going to win. It's like, I remember just like some of the things that we were saying. It's like, we got this. There was just like a bunch of us. It's like the energy, just everything felt right. And we were just like, we got this, right? And so we go out there and throw it all out there. And like, one of the very last things that got added in, I think the day of the last show was, so, we all had like the black band pants for the show, and we had different colored tank tops on, and over the tank tops we had black turtlenecks, right? So it was like this whole thing. And it was like this, okay, so see, what was it? Okay, so the show junior year was called Devolution, An Awakening, and then my senior year was Devolution, Struggle for Self, right? So it's like, even these points, it's like parallels my entire journey. And it's like, lays out very important, it's like an important part of the roadmap for my journey, right? But, so like the last thing, we asked the instructors if, like, because the Drumline throughout the show, like, they'd come out and they'd have stripped off the turtlenecks and whatnot, but pit, there was never a time where it was really appropriate that we could rip the tank tops off. The very last show, we asked if we could do this. Like, I don't even know who came or who asked about it. Might have been, I feel like it might have been Matt, which was my my go-to backup, that I thought was an immensely better player than me. But the Drumline instructors were like, if you do it, you have to get it right. I think we might have put it in a couple practice runs. He said, if you're going to do it, it has to be right, exactly together, and nobody can oops it, right? And it was like, we threw that all in too, where it's like we hit the very last note and rip the shirts off. So we have the bright colored tank tops too. And it was just like, even that fit together exactly on cue. And it was just like everything came together perfectly, right? So then going back to this awards thing, right? Every time we had an awards thing that we were going to, of course, I went out because I was the pit section leader, and Tyler went out because he was the battery section leader. Well, our show junior year, the guy that I was dating had this important role where he was kind of like the the main figure. He's starting the show with a freaking megaphone and doing this spiel that goes along with Tool's Disgustipated with some tweaked words to fit the show. So he was usually going out with us. So it was the three of us. It was me, Tyler, and him. And the very last show, since it was the championship, it's like I was standing there behind Tyler and I said, we should have seniors go out, right? And it was really like the whole point of, like, Paul was the only reason I said that. Me and Tyler were already going to be going out for the awards, but then it's like, I want Paul included on this too, because Paul was somebody that was so important to me as well. And I couldn't have him go out there or request for him to go out there and not have the other two seniors who were really, if it was just them and not Paul, they wouldn't have gone. Because I wanted Paul out there, then it's like, all right, we should have seniors go, and then, because there was 5 of us. And so he's like, I agree, let's do it. So of course I have to tell the guy that we've been dating, or was still dating at the time. It's like, look, I said, I'm sorry, but we're going to have seniors go out for the awards. And he had no problem with it, totally understood, so he backed out of the way because he was behind me. So he, actually, no, he was in front of me. He started because he was, the one that everybody recognized immediately. But, because we were together all the time anyway, it's just like, hey, it's like, we're going to do this. We're going to have seniors go out. And so, for pictures and all that stuff. And he said, okay, no big deal. And so we got to switch. The only reason that asshole got included and was able to do this thing that was really cool and go out for pictures for this, the thing that we didn't at that point know for sure that we had won, but we were pretty confident we had won. The only reason that guy was there, the one that had made my life a living hell since I was 8 years old, was because I wanted Paul there. And it was suddenly in that moment, I didn't care about all the bad stuff. I cared about the one that had meant so much to me on my journey and wasn't a chronic asshole, right? So it's like, because I wanted him there, in that moment, I had to overlook everything else that, might have potentially made me backtrack from that idea. And the girl that was there too, it's like she was my best friend in middle school, but she was the one that we stopped hanging out freshman year because she got on this kick with telling everybody that she had cancer and less than a year to live. And, our mutual friend, because it was the 3 of us that were very tight. She told her, that friend bought it right away and was like, you need to tell Sarah. And so we're in the bathroom before band practice one day, and she comes over and says it. And I just looked at her and said, bullshit. I said, no, you don't. And she didn't, right? It ended up, of course, it got around enough because, students tell their, the peers in the band, eventually, the right combination happens and her mom is made aware of it. And she's like, no, she doesn't. So it was like this whole thing. And that's one of those things where that was kind of like an early teacher of karma. Because that girl who was telling everybody she had cancer and less than a year to live, when she didn't, ended up losing her mom to breast cancer several years later. So it's like, you can't tell me that's not connected. Okay, but anyway, so I've wandered all the way here. Let me wander back to this morning. So this morning, while I was thinking, it's like, okay, the puzzling thing, right? If I don't have the distractions and I clear the shit out of the end of my room, I can put the puzzle table up, and sometimes, you know, and I don't have to rush it if it's in there because it's in my space, right? So if I want to work on it, I can. If I need a break from it, not a problem. It doesn't matter. It's my time, my space, my prerogative, right? So yeah, since that's like a meditative thing. And then I was thinking, it's like, well, and if I choose to listen to music, I don't have to use my phone then either, because I have my white noise machine is also a radio, right? And I originally had it in the office, and then it was like for the birds, but then it's like, no, I want the white noise machine. So yeah, I feel my birds don't get as much interaction as they used to as far as listening to things. Although I do watch movies in there in the evenings, so depending on what I'm watching and how lit up everything is, and if there's birds on TV, oh my god, they love the birds. They get very chatty. So even if the lights are off or whatever. But anyway, so I was thinking about all that stuff. So then this is just how my head was running in that time frame, right? So, and I've already killed 36 minutes just talking about things that started because of my my thought process this morning. So, beyond that, I went to my meditation time, right? And I actually did my meditation time rather than just talking about things that I have done that have been meditative for me in the past. I shifted to, okay, so there was the, I did the Twin Flames 1111 Harmony Healing thing. And then, you know, because I realized that if I disconnect from my heart, which is the connecting point, then I'm fucking myself over, right? So it's like, okay, so we're not trying to do that. Guys walking a little dog in the rain. That's not horribly rainy. But anyway, so I did that one. And then I found an honest guy's meditation that was for manifesting your dreams, right? And it was a half an hour. And I was like all about being full in on the thing. And that dog's got a vest, but it doesn't have a leash. But okay, it's staying right there. I don't think he'll go very far. He's not very big. Anyway. He's cute though. Probably she, since it's wearing pink, but who knows. Anyway, that doesn't mean anything these days. So I do the Twin Flames one, I do the Manifesting Your Dreams one, and then I do this one that's for, it's a, I think the page is called Great Meditation, and, you know, they had a 10-minute grounding one. So grounding and protecting your energy. So I did that one. And then I found this other one that was something about stepping into your purpose. I was like, all right, we're going that direction, right? So I did that one. And as I'm laying there listening to this meditation, I have this thought that pops into my head, right? So one of the big things that I've been doing here lately is pulling all of my energy back. You know, I talked about like yesterday that I realized that anything that I was giving my attention to as far as my counterpart goes, if I was listening to music that he's put out in the current energy that he's in, if I was connecting with his energy and what's actually going on for him in his current existence. Dog's on a leash now. That's me connecting with his 3D energy, you know, which is essentially the pat on the back. Good job, you're on the right path, right? So when the thing happened with the chick in the picture, and that threw me all off, and then my immediate thought was disconnect from all of, like, everything, like stop following him on Instagram, on Spotify, on YouTube. And these were things that I had started following him before I had any idea who he was to me, right? So it was just stuff that it was giving me insight to what's going on in his world at present moment. And it worked for a good amount of time because that was part of what was helping to strengthen the masculine aspect of myself, because I'm seeing the stuff that he's actually doing and it's amazing, and, you know, connecting with that. So it strengthens that energetic connection, because I'm like, I've talked about how that, like, there was one song that I was listening to on repeat when I was skating, and this was like a song that he put out years ago that I got really into, and it was like under a different band name and everything. And when I was skating, I had this revelation where it was like, in all the years that I felt like I was forever doomed to choke on my words and I would never be able to speak and, like, you know, share my story, tell my truth, any of those things, at the same time, he was building a career where, you know, he's got the singing and screaming thing going, and ultimately that's a means of helping to alleviate this part where I was stuck in my own life, right? So I was afraid I was forever doomed to choke on my words. But as he was also connected to me even in that time, you know, he had to, you know, whatever was going on with him, to put out the things where he's doing the singing and the screaming, to get that out of his system, is clearing it from the shared system, right? So it's through listening to the music that I started to make these connections, right? And started to come into a whole new awareness of, like, deeper levels of what's actually going on. But, you know, when suddenly he's got a girlfriend, it's like, that's all gone. I don't care about any of it. I got to work on strengthening this connection to my own inner masculine and figuring out how I can build for myself, right? So I'll start thinking. I have thought on here and have mentioned multiple times that I have thought about putting together an oracle deck. And one of my biggest hangups has been, I love color and I can doodle sometimes, but as far as, like, I don't really count myself an artist per se to be able to doodle a picture that looks like anything in particular and tell a story with it. Today, I had this thought of using pictures that I've taken. Like, I have so many amazing pictures of hawks, of ravens or crows, eagles, my freaking pictures from the zoo back in Zubu 2023. I have so many pictures like that, things from nature, right, that are my pictures, and that I learned something from, you know, whatever was going on in that span of time. Like, okay, the vultures and how they were always around. And then one day I see them at the cemetery, and there's 4 of them. One of them's on top of a tombstone, like it's keeping lookout, and then the other 3 are by a itty-bitty little mouse carcass. And I remember it got my attention because I'm walking my dogs, and it's like, somebody's going to be disappointed in that meal, man. So, but when vultures kept coming around, as far as standing out, I eventually made the connection that that's, you know, this whole transmutation of the dense energies, that's something that I'm specifically here to do, right? And what that looks like is, you know, storytelling, largely. So then I was thinking about, I already have these pictures. Maybe I just compile like 45 of my favorite pictures and the backstory or what I was learning in that time frame. Like, okay, hawks, when they started appearing, the one that I got a picture of earliest, I think, was from 2020. And I was working at Amazon in that time frame. And I started seeing them a lot. And, like, what it was actually teaching me in the time was that I needed to start trusting my intuition, right? So I get hit by a school bus, right? On the one day that I felt like I was supposed to call in and go to work a couple hours late. And I didn't do it because I couldn't think of any reason why I would need to do that. So I went ahead and went. Then I got hit by a school bus, ended up being 2 hours late to work anyway. like the next day on my way in, I was taking this other route because I didn't want to go that S curve anymore after that. But I was taking this other route, and I was thinking, so if I had listened to my intuition, even though I would probably never have known that this bus situation could have been a thing that was going to happen, you know, if I trusted my intuition, it would have protected me from that incident, right? And as I'm having this thought, there is a hawk that flies from like the power line. Okay, the power line on the left side of the car down in front of me into the ditch on the right side of the road. And just the way it did it, it's like, that is trying to get my attention. And then there was a day that I was pulling back home. I don't remember where I was coming from, but there's a power line that goes over our driveway. Like the big driveway, because it's a private drive that's got like 3 houses on it. Yeah, 4 technically. But the other one has 2 driveways, so it's optional. But anyway, there's like this power line that goes across the road, and I just pulled into the driveway, and I look up, and there's a hawk sitting on it, and I pull up over it, and it's like, can I get a picture? And I did, and I was really excited, and it's one of my favorites because it was like one of the first ones that I took, and it was amidst making all these other connections about starting to trust my intuition and learning to follow what was starting to be shown to me, if you will. So yeah, so then I was thinking this morning, it's like, this is what I need to do. So when I get home, as I'm watching this, I will probably go through some of my favorite guidebooks of my favorite decks and like count how many words are in the little spiels that, because there are some of the guidebooks where it's like, there is so much information that is here. It's so long that when I want to write it down, it's just like, oh, it's so, like, I just can't bring myself into it, right? But then there are others, it's like, I have no problem reading this. So it's like, I need to find what the standard word count is, and then, try to put little short stories in that and come up with the pictures to go with it, right? And I've heard a ton about this Tarotstack thing, so I looked into it once, but not extensively. But if I actually get the thing put together, which now that I have direction on and I'm super excited about, right? So yeah, so that's a thing that I'm going to be working on now. And of course, it's a means of sharing my little short stories as well, and like even the freaking clouds that I got at the cemetery the one day, where one cloud looked like a fucking bunny, right? Now, whether that's the story the one that I used the story about the dream that I had when I was first married to my ex, that being, and I've shared this on here several times too. He was in this pool of water, and he was picking up these koi fish, and they were like really obscure looking koi fish because they were like super fat and kind of cartoony, but they were still koi fish. It's like the colors and some of the fins and whatnot showed that they were supposed to be koi fish, but they were like, what's coming to mind is Kirby's Avalanche, the big round. Yeah, but anyway, so he's picking up these koi fish, and he'll have one in each hand, and he's like holding them up next to each other, and like he's trying to find the perfect combination, right, with the colors and all the stuff, like just the perfect combination of them. So I get in the water, and I'm figuring I'll help. I don't really know how to help, but I'm gonna help, right? So I get in there, and I pick up this koi fish. And as I pick it up and pull it out, because that's what he was doing, picking it up, pulling it out of the water and holding it up to see, how it looked. So I pick up this fish and pull it up, and it turns into a bunny. And then all at once, it was like all the water disappeared, the pool disappeared, and suddenly it was like this grassy area that had just a bunch of bunnies in it instead of fish, right? So I remember, I was talking to my mother-in-law at the time after I had this dream, and she was all excited because, koi fish, that's fertility. Rabbits, that's fertility, right? And it was like there's something more to it, and I didn't really understand that at that point in time. I understood it when it came to this space where I've been doing this vlog, right? So I was talking about it one day, and it's like, what I realized was, essentially it was telling me that, my ex and I were like a completely different species. Like, of course, we were both human, but like, at another level, it's like, we're not the same at all, right? And more recently, as I've made this, or as I've been thinking about this, I was thinking about like how the water, right? Water has to do with like the unconscious, excuse me. And so he was picking up these things that are staying in the unconscious, but to make the perfect match of them, right? And then when I pull them out of the water completely disappears, and suddenly there's these cute little fuzzy bunnies. So, and what I talked about more recently too was, in that end with that, him dealing with things in the unconscious, and then me essentially bringing them to the conscious, right? Like, that's part of what I'm here to do, right? So I can talk about all these weird stories and the things that I'm learning because life is teaching me, which there too goes to support that whole thing that you don't need religion. Religion fucks things up. So life will teach you if you truly want to be taught, right? So as I was, thinking about this stuff, I got really excited, just like I'm really excited now, right? And I decided, okay, also of note, should I tell it before or after? No, we'll skip that. Okay, we'll come back to it. I wanted to write the stuff down, right? My journals, twin flame journals, but they're not actually going directly to him. He will have access to them should he end up in my life, in the physical context. And if he doesn't, then it's still been something that's been essential for my journey, right? But I went to write. As I'm writing, God, I had this flash, this girl with the pretty curly dark hair hanging on his neck, right? But it was like I was the one looking at her. So it felt like I was looking through his eyes and seeing her. And that sick feeling came back, and it was just like, ah! I don't like this at all, right? But that too is one of those things that, I know I've heard about people talking about how when there is a third party in the connection, generally the feminine energy feels it, right? And can feel some aspect of their being together. And so then I'm sitting there trying to write about the stuff that I was really excited about, and suddenly I have this flash where it's like I'm looking through his eyes and seeing her. And everything in me was just like, like it's very disheartening, very icky again. So, I mean, I could not write. It's like, I still gotta write this. But now I got this thing that's like also inserted. It's like, I don't want this. I don't want to be thinking, or I don't want to be seeing this girl. So right, that was a big part of why I disconnected completely from everything he's put out in the physical space. And what I was thinking about on today's walk, when I was walking the dogs, I was thinking about this point of, because I had been so locked in on the stuff he was putting out in the physical, because it's the masculine twins duty to bring it into the physical space, right? The connection. Since I was focusing on what he's already put out there, that's kind of a good job for him kind of a thing, but allows him to, so like the good feelings that I've been putting in because of, being able to imagine these highest case scenarios, and like, should the connection all, come into the real space and all this stuff. Because I was connecting with the stuff that he's already put into the space, because I know who he is now. For him to be tuning into the feelings he's got going on, because as above, so below, right? Because he is, like, the expression that is him is the as above to my so below, to my heart, right? And likewise, to the as within, that is his heart, that is me, right? So without. So in that end, it also makes sense that I would be able to see this girl as though I'm in the experience with them, because in a way I am. Because what he was picking up when I was being in the highest case scenario optimism timeline, he was, trying to bring that in, right? Because he's got these feelings, and they seem to be hinting that it's time. So then he comes up with somebody that is, going back to that false twin card that I pulled up, or that I mentioned and read through yesterday. Because I had been set on he's the what he's put out that is good, right? He's thinking he's on the right path. And then, okay, we're pulling it into the physical. Now we got to find the person that brings these heart feelings, right? Or helps to feel the good feelings, right? But it's not me. So I see this picture of him with this person that he's got in his physical space, and it's like the bottom drops out, and it's like, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of anything that he's got going on in his world. It's like, that ain't it, right? It's like, she ain't me. Highest case scenario in my timeline, the things that I've been envisioning and holding on to is because of our shared soul connection. So to put somebody else in that, it's like, ew, I don't want that. Like, get rid of that. But part of the means of how that, how he ends up realizing he's not on the highest timeline is, because I've now disconnected completely from everything that he's putting out in the physical, right? So at that ego level of, the stuff I'm doing is grand. Now I'm not connecting to it. So, and I talked about yesterday how at first I was running away from the visions that, like, he kept popping up in my head, and like with the, different people trying to introduce me to him, or, different ways of the being put in his path, or vice versa. And, I was like sidestepping. It's like, walking in the general direction, there he is, we make eye contact, I sidestep and go around him. Or no, just, I don't want to meet him, I don't want any connection to this and all this stuff, right? And then it was kind of a rude awakening when, the thought that came in after like 25 of these things that I was trying to say no to, then I'm suddenly, I suddenly have that picture of her come back up, and, she's hanging all over his neck again. And it's like, right? It was just like really aggravating on that level. But what I realized I was doing every time I said no was I was rejecting my connection to my own inner masculine, right? To my own heart, right? So if I'm rejecting these visions and scenarios where he's still out there, then it's just a means of trying to disconnect from my own inner masculine, and that's not helpful either. So, this morning when I was thinking about things I can do, like this oracle deck that I'm super stoked about now that I have an idea for, the path ahead. It's like that's something I can do, right, to bring this, to essentially put, or to bring a better reality into my physical space, right? So it's like I always thought that, I had all these like shitty ideas and couldn't do anything because I needed something outside of me to save me. But in reality, I need to lean into trusting my heart, trusting my intuition, and lean into what I can do to make my reality better. And part of that is one of the start points is this oracle deck, because that'll at least be a means of getting some of these stories out of my system and into a consumable format so other people can, be drawn to my oracle decks and start hearing my stories and having them shared and being able to utilize those in their own readings and whatnot, right? So, yeah. Okay, so the thing that I was, I thought about inserting was, I find it really interesting that two of my most important learning lessons, he has tattoos of. Because I told the story about the bunnies, right? And I saw on a picture that he posted not that long ago that he has a tattoo that has a little bunny in it. It's like, that's interesting. And it's like, the tattoo is the bunny. So obviously that got my attention, especially in light of the connection that I made that my ex and I weren't of the same species, right? That he is here to keep things in the unconscious level and I'm here for the awakening process, right? That's like, for me, sharing stories and whatnot, that is a way that I'm here to participate in the awakening journey for others. So, yeah, then he's got this tattoo, right? Well, so the other one isn't direct. I mean, yes, but no. He's got a tattoo of a cardinal. And I only saw it like one time because I think it was on his chest. And, he had a picture on the beach or something that somebody posted with him and a group of people, and I saw it then. But just yesterday I was talking about on here the story about the cardinal, right? So the cardinal that had the nest in the rose bush in front of our picture window. And when I realized that it was a cardinal, it was like the second day after I knew the nest was there and had an egg in it, but that was when I saw the mama bird fly out. And then I was trying to think of how I can be more conscious and aware of the fact that she is there and I want to keep her safe and, relatively not stressed out. And then my dad goes in there and throws up in the curtains and, the next time I look in the nest, the egg's gone. And of course part of that story was the end of my mom making fun of me, acting like I thought the bird had packed it up to take it to a new nest. It's like, no, she just got rid of it. This is not safe in this spot. We will not bring this egg, this little baby bird, to be into existence in this spot because it is not a safe spot. That is one of my really essential lessons because it connected me with that point that's the thing that I've been doing. I go into self-sabotage anytime there's the possibility of somebody, pissing all over something that I create, right? So like my family specifically, my bear picture, right? Because I know how my parents have been about anything I've done, and because I wasn't supposed to have a life outside of the existence in that space, I was supposed to be forever bound to the family. So for me to do something where I'm creating something on my own puts their illusion at risk because I'm disconnecting from what they feel like I'm supposed to do. As the daughter, I'm just supposed to be forever around, taking care of their shit because that is my role, right? But then on the same end, because my brother is the oldest, That is also an oldest child duty, according to my father. Right? So for both of us to be disconnecting, they're having all sorts of issues with that. They don't know how they're going to exist going forward if we're not around to take care of their shit. And that's just where we're at. We're just not going to be taking care of their shit. And my stomach's starting to get grumbly. But that cardinal, right? That was the thing that taught me that, like she was, she got rid of the egg. Now, because, she was going to lay new ones elsewhere, somewhere safer. That just wasn't a safe space. So like that, my creations, the things that I wanted to put out in the world, I was always afraid to start on, or afraid to dream big for anything, to want anything for myself, because they were always going to get in the middle of it and mess it up. So the only way to keep them from being able to do that is they don't get to know what I'm doing, right? If they find out about the freaking Oracle deck, then it'll be after it's out there and for general consumption, right? Like they will not know about any of it until it is already ready to be printed and out. And that's the biggest thing. They have known that writing is one of the things that I feel very drawn to, but I haven't been able to write in that space because they're going to ask me questions about it and get in the way, insert the doubt, all that stuff, right? It's not a safe space to truly lean fully into that thing. So there again, this Oracle deck thing gives me a way to get some of it out of my system. It's a creative thing. It's something that I am doing, and then releases it to whoever's meant to find it, right? Okay, so is there anything else that I have not included on that? Because it's been quite a journey. I don't know. See, okay, so also with that, the Oracle deck and the doing, this is me strengthening my inner masculine, right? It's taking initiative on things I can take initiative on. That also strengthens the connection because like, he had to tune in to basically clear the space for me to be able to start processing through the heavy shit, right? It's like he had stuff out in the physical space that I connected with, and because I was connected to it, I was able to go through a big part of my process, which was talking it out of my system, making the connections, getting it out to be seen by others if they're meant to see it, or in general otherwise, at least get it out of my system and help me make it make sense with other things in my life, right? And how it's fit in. So, when he was in the space of healing and holding space for his inner feminine, that was giving me the space to process the thing, right? Or to process through the stuff, right? And again, the only reason I started this damn channel was because I had that awareness that he had to be in a spotlight in order for me to find him, but how is he ever going to find me if I didn't start doing more than I'd ever done? So I started doing the thing, and it was very hard, and I only got 12 subscribers that first year, and that was plenty because the first 3 I cried because I was so afraid that I wouldn't be able to do what I was intending to do, right? And I didn't know what I was really intending to do at that point in time, but at this other level energetically, I've always known that I'm supposed to be sharing my story, and that is one of the most essential things that I'm supposed to be doing. But I was terrified of doing it for all of these things that were telling me that I couldn't use my voice. It wasn't okay to use my voice. It was unsafe, right? So him making space to tune in to his own heart and, to what he needed for his system gave this version, or this physical expression of me, the motivation to start working on my own stuff, right? And again, it's not that, I question how, I know he is somehow aware of the connection, because it is a back and forth. But to what extent? I mean, I was really leaning in on the feeling good spaces, and then it shows up with he's in another connection. And then it feels like I'm looking through his eyes and seeing her, and it's just like, so then on that end where I'm thinking about, like on the card where it was talking about, no, it was I think it was a video that I watched, Soul Gardener, maybe? There's a video that talked about the karmic connection, and like I didn't even watch the whole video, like, because I started it the day that I found out about the other connection, and it was just kind of like, yeah. It's like I didn't want to know anything about it. But one of the things that I caught in what they said was, as soon as, it's like it is basically the as soon as the karmic connection is there, it's pretty much already locked in with the cracks in the foundation, and it's not going to work out, right? So it's like, now especially that I, syncing to his heart, am aware that she exists, and she is not me. I don't know anything about her. I was journaling this morning. It's like, I don't care if she's the nicest, kindest, sweetest person on the face of the planet. She's still not fucking me, right? It's like, yeah. And yeah, so it's just like all the layers of that. But if, he can be in this said scenario where he's looking at her, and then, has this immense in his like heart space, because that's what I'm feeling, and then it might not translate as in right in this very moment he's looking at her and feeling this thing that's coming from me, but he's still receiving it at some level, and it will make itself known whenever it's meant to, right? And now that I'm completely disconnected from all of the shit he's putting out there in the physical space, I don't care about any of it, right? I care about what's going on in my world. I care about building something for me, right? So because this is me focusing on my inner masculine aspects and what I can put forth into the world, he's also going to have to work on that inner feminine aspect and, healing whatever it is that he still has yet to heal from, in order to make it so this connection can come into the physical space more realistically, if it's meant to. Yeah. And I think that's another thing too, is because, like, as I was walking the dogs today, and of course there's this connection, and that is, I can't undo the connection. It's like we're the same soul essence, right? We're essentially two physical expressions of the same soul essence. You can't undo that, right? That's something we had established before we came here, and ultimately the purpose of the twin flame connection is to push both people into stepping into the fullness of who they are, the full expression of what they, who they are, what they came here to do. So this whole thing is like basically an accelerated healing journey. And absolutely, because before I started the channel, because he had to be in a spotlight so I could find him, but how is he ever going to find me if I didn't start doing more than I'd ever done? But once I started, then I didn't have the choice. It's like I kept going, and it's like it didn't matter how hard things got, I still had to keep going, because it was like, I gotta fix it. I don't like this stuff. I don't like realizing that literally the reason I ended up in a shitty marriage was because I felt like a burden, and essentially went from being my father's trash to being my husband's trash, because I connected with that point of I was trash, right? But through this talk therapy and actually getting through these things and learning the hard lessons, it's like, That's a bunch of shit. And I refuse to live like that. And again, without the connection, this version of me doesn't exist. And I really kind of like this version of me. It's a lot more fun than it ever was before. So anyway, on that note, we're at 1 hour 15 minutes, and I'm going to go finish this and then start working on my freaking oracle deck, because I'm all excited about that now. Yeah, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.